Hello, this is Haiku here for the Modern Horizons 3 Arena Pauper set review. I'm going to be going through all of the cards. Very, very strong set, of course, being a Modern Horizons set. If you guys are excited and hyped to play with this set, we're going to be having a historic Pauper tournament after the set releases on Arena. And so check the description below for the link to our Discord to join. And then right after that tournament, we're going to be launching our historic Pauper ladder and vintage Pauper ladder. So again, for more ways to play on Arena, go ahead and check out in the description below for that Discord link. All right, starting off with the white cards. Area Auxiliary. It's a very, very solid rate for a card, basically 5/5 worth of toughness. But the biggest weakness is that you have to have two creatures in play already before you get that full effect. And if you have two creatures already, you're basically winning the game anyways. So I view this more as a win more card. I wouldn't really think that this is going to be playable, unfortunately. Dog Umbra, better pacifism, instant speed. And it does have this other effect, the Umbra effect. I don't think is going to be that relevant. Unfortunately, pacifism just not good enough. You need to really get rid of the abilities of the creature. And there's just the threat of Skyfisher and other blink to undo your removal spell on a key creature is just bad news for you. So not playable. Expel the Unworthy, though, is going to be a pretty good removal spell for white decks, control decks in the format. Pretty solid. You definitely want to be, casting it on 3 or less, mana value 3 or less. But the Exile is a pretty good effect to have. There's just so much stuff that cares about graveyard, so this is going to be a solid removal spell to complement Candle Trap in white decks, unless they have access to another color. Hexgold Slith. Unfortunately, these creatures, they used to be good in regular constructed, not even Pauper, but just card power creep has gone to the point where these creatures that grow when they get hits in are just not relevant to any kind of constructed format. Inspired Inventor. A solid like charm kind of creature, but none of the effects are that good that I don't think this is going to be a playable card. Jolted Awake. So this is the first one that I do think is going to be constructed playable. Very solid, even for just the if you don't have any other energy producers and you're just using it for the 2 energy it's producing. So if you build your deck for 2 CMC permanents or less. The big card that will go well with this if you're playing that low game is Experimental Synthesizer. And then the benefit of this is it's a very cheap card that can reanimate a very large creature if you have an energy deck. So that's the other kind of deck that I think this can slot into. I think that there's almost enough energy support. I don't think it's quite there to make the deck. And then the other thing is we don't have Ulamog's Crusher, or a really good reanimate target to go for in Historic Pauper or Vintage Pauper. So this card is going to be, reasonable in a lot of decks that are playing 2 CMC or less. But then for the big ones, I think it would just need more cards printed for it to be more relevant. Mandibular Kite. A solid living weapon, so you just get a 1/1 flyer, and then you could use the equipment later on. Unfortunately, the equip cost is just pretty expensive. That and we have already enough flyers at 1 mana for the white flyer deck that I don't think this is going to make it. Maybe as a one of, and then you get the late game equips going. Nyxborn Unicorn. The bestow mechanic is pretty good. Actually, it's almost relevant for constructed, but I would actually equate this similar to Area Auxiliary, where basically you need 2 other creatures in play. So the same thing with Nyxborn Unicorn. So you already need 2 creatures in play. Mentor plays well with bestow, but you still need 2 creatures in play. So on turn 4, you can bestow this on one creature and attack in and mentor onto another creature. but it's the same thing. It's more kind of a win more card. Um, the fact that this attacks or gets the power boost that same turn and the mentor the same turn um, makes it a little bit better than this card. And then the fail case of when they remove your creature, then this comes back into play. Makes it an okay card, but I just don't see it. It's a little bit too expensive on the bestow. Rose Caught Knight, just too expensive. Very strong effect, but 5 mana is a little bit too expensive for the format now. Solstice Zealot, another way to get energy, but unfortunately this effect is just not good enough for Constructed. Okay, now this is the best white card for Constructed. It just any kind of charm obviously is great, and when the charm, most of the time charms like have like 2 reasonable effects and then 1 that doesn't really get used, but I feel like all of 3 of these are going to be used pretty often. The exile is great because we've been very short on exile effects in the format, and then we have a removal spell, and then we have an enchantment hate card, so that's going to help against the aura decks. And then the last white card, Wing It, just a combat trick, not really playable and Constructed. So that's the white cards. Like I said, the big standout is Throbbing Charm. And then shout out to Jolted Awake for a possibility of making it into an energy-based deck. All right, see you guys for the next color. Bye-bye.